that we can use. There's this amazing energy and it's in us, around us, and through us. We are one. We are one on this glorious morning here in northern San Diego County in Carlsbad. We are one with all. So I just declare for each and every one of you, today is a day of growing and expanding consciousness, of learning more about who and what you are, which is the divine expressing in human form. I know that for each and every one of you, this day unfolds in beauty and perfect and divine order. It's a good day. Every day is a good day. It's all good. It's all God. So today is a new opportunity for creating good. So I give great gratitude and I release my word into the mind, knowing that my word as spoken is acted upon right here and right now. I know it is so, and together we say, so it is. So good morning, everyone, and another song by Tim.
Time after time, oh, you can read the signs with our hearts and our dreams on the line. And if someone has a light, you better shine it every night, for our hearts and our dreams are on the line. For our hearts and our dreams are on the line. Spirits have been sold with our hearts and our dreams on the line. And there's nowhere left to run, for the children all have guns with our heart and our dreams on the line. With our heart and our dreams on the line. With our hearts and our dreams, well, they're on the line. Have you heard the news? Well, there's nothing left to lose, for our heart and our dreams are on the line. And you won't feel the sting until you hear the angel's wings, with our heart and our dreams on the line. With our heart and our dreams on the line. Live the truth, so we can teach the youth that their hearts and their dreams are on the line, and that everyone has a light, so shine it every night, for our hearts and our dreams are on the line. For our hearts and our dreams are on the line. For our hearts and our dreams, well, they're on the line. For our heart and our dreams are on the line.
Tim, where's that song from?
That's actually a John Stewart song.
Oh,
I wish I wrote it.
Yeah.
very nice, thank you. So, hey, it's my pleasure to be here today. It's great to see all these smiling faces. And we believe there's power for good in the universe, greater than we are, and we can use it. We also believe that we come together to teach, demonstrate, and inspire a positive spiritual approach to living. So right now, candle lighting I'd like to welcome Melissa to the stage. So we use candles to symbolize and remind ourselves of the underlying spirit of life and the unity of all. I hope you will enjoy the changes we made to the script. So the first light, we light a candle for life. Life is everywhere, flowing through each and every one of us. There's only one life. That life is God's life, and that life is my life now. Please know with me and repeat if you want, I am life. The second candle we light is a candle for love. The birth of love happens within each one of us every time we make room for the Christ consciousness in our hearts and in our lives. We are transformed. I am a point of light and love within the heart of God. Please know with me and repeat if you want, I am light, love. I am light and love. Sorry.
I am light and love.
I'm light and love. Now here we are, light. We light a candle for light. The light of God is the presence and the power, and we're always walking in the light. And just what you said in your song, Tim, we radiate the light of God wherever we are. So please know with me and say, I am light.
I am light.
The candle for beauty. We're made in the likeness and image of God. We are each whole, complete, perfect, and beautiful, just as we are. We accept the beauty of God's perfection in us now. So know with me, I am beauty. So we light a candle of joy. Joy is the very nature of spirit and the true essence of each of us. We celebrate the joy of our own rebirth in and of God's consciousness. So please know with me, I am joy. And lastly, we light the candle for peace. Today and every day, we open our hearts to peace. We are each a center of peace for our world. Please know with me, I am peace. And before you leave, Melissa, let's just take a moment. Just take a moment and take a breath to recognize our own inner light that is always shining within us as we honor our own metaphysical path of wholeness, oneness, and mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. Thank you, Melissa. So, announcements. I think, did each of you get a program? We have some announcements in there. And please put your phone on stun. And be sure to stay with us today. I'm going to be doing a workshop right after, and this workshop is on gratitude and blessings. It'll be about an hour long, if you can stay. And today is also a special day. It's the first day of the month. We know what that means. Who has a birthday this month? Norm? Oh, Marchie. Okay. Can we all sing? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. So Nick, join us later. Nick and Norm, Nikki and Norm brought a cake, a beautiful cake. Yay. So, spiritual mind treatment. Sunday is also the day that we do spiritual mind treatments. And a show of hands of who's here to do, who's available to do that. All right, so take advantage. grab one of us after the service if there's anything in your life that you would like help in creating or releasing. Look us up. That's what we do, mental healing. So if you don't want to and you can't stay, you can fill out a form on the table out by the far side there, and we have a group of people who will pray during the week for you and do treatment for you. Okay. So today, this is what we do here is community-based, and we really rely on our volunteers. So I want to give gratitude for Verla for the flowers, and Ruth Ann and Martha were greeters today. Nikki and Norm brought the beautiful cake. Thank you. Larry for the video recording. Thank you, Larry. And Jan and Angel. Angel set up early today and had to leave. But thank you, Jan and Angel. And we have a volunteer sheet outside by the door if you want to volunteer for something. I think we're all filled up for next week except the greeter, but we're open for the Sunday after that. So, at this point, we have a group reading. So if you all want to take your reading, your program, and we'll say this together. God is all, both visible and invisible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect love and perfect abundance. I am every individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect abundance. Okay, so we have a group song. Tim.
Spirit is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Oh, the Spirit is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Oh, the Spirit is around us, the Spirit is around us, the Spirit is around us like a rainbow around the sun. That's pretty much it. Yeah, the Spirit is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Yeah, the Spirit is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Oh, the Spirit is around us, the Spirit is around us, the Spirit is around us like a rainbow around the sun. And love is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Oh, love is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Love is around us, love is around us, love is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Peace, peace is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Oh, peace is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Oh, peace is around us, peace is around us, peace is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Spirit, one more time. Oh, the Spirit is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Oh, the Spirit is around us like a rainbow around the sun. Oh, the Spirit is around us, the Spirit is around us, the Spirit is around us like a rainbow around the sun.
Thank you, Tim. Hasn't anyone ever said you sound like Roy Orbison?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So this is our time. This is our time for reading. And our reader for today, I'd like to invite Larry up to do the reading.
Well, I had an interesting assignment here because Kate chose a passage from a book by Harriet Ricks called Christian Mind Healing, but it was written in 1914. And I don't like reading he and her and him all the time, so I kind of went through it and rewrote a lot of things in it, which is quite a challenge, I must say. But nonetheless, the message is what's there. And let me read as I may, and may we be open to these words of wisdom and peace. God is mind, and every thought of divine mind is perfect like itself. Mankind must know themselves as God. God created them, a pure and perfect idea of the first great cause. And then will all their expressions be likewise good and very good. But as long as they remain ignorant of this truth, they will continue to express a mixed condition of sin and peace, health and disease, life and death. Mankind is not a creator in the sense that he originates anything. His work is to take the invisible creations of God and to make them visible. They are the creators of the outer world of form. God is the creator of the inner world of principle. This invisible creation was called by Jesus the kingdom of heaven. And it fills all space so that it is accessible to all through their own divinity. And by scientific thinking, they may externalize it as heaven on earth. Mind thoughts, words, and deeds define the process from center to circumstance of creation, to the circumference, of creation. And when we realize that we build this world and that these words, we will begin to discipline our mind and pay strict attention to the quality of our thoughts and words, bringing them into conformity with the constructive power of love and wisdom. Thus, our body and our world will begin to manifest the true, the good, and the beautiful. It is the nature of mind to radiate thought, as it is for a lighted lamp to radiate light. Yet, if the lamp's chimney be blackened with soot, the medium has become imperfect, and thus the radiation of light will be rendered dim and feeble. We are God's lamp, God's greatest avenue of expression, and so we must keep our conscious mind clear and clean as a perfect vehicle of God's expression. And so it is.
So it is.
Every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. I believe somewhere in the darkest night a candle glows. I believe for everyone who goes astray, someone will come to show the way. Oh, I believe. Oh, I believe above the storm, the smallest prayer can be heard. I believe that someone in the great somewhere hears every word. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry or touch a leaf, oh, see the sky, and then I know somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. Well, we know there's a land that we all have heard of. Once in love, oh, I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. And I believe somewhere in the darkest night, yeah, a candle glows. And I believe that every time we go astray, yeah, you know something's gonna come to show the way. That's why
And just sitting here looking at these flowers again, I just want to say thank you. They're so beautiful. Thank you. You can really believe. So, all right. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce Reverend Kate, who's going to talk about roots and revelations. Reverend Kate.
We love technology. You know, I've been reading about artificial intelligence and how it's going to change our world. But I read something I thought was really funny. It was that they have artificial intelligence that can now write all your high school essays for you. And so someone has invented an artificial intelligence checker so someone can run it through to see if something was written by an application or a human being. And so they fed it the story of Genesis from the Bible and it flagged it as written by artificial intelligence. So there's a way to go. But anyway, I still like technology, you know, and it's useful, although it does have limitations. But whatever. So it's great to be here. I wanted to talk about roots and revelations because so far this year we've really been talking about the basics of science of mind, and we're shifting into the application of science of mind. So kind of as an in-between, I wanted to talk about this other underlying idea about revelations and how it plays into the way we see our roots. So last week, I have to give a pitch for Reverend Maureen's workshops. last week, we really had fun, and she wrote the simplest exercises, but they were very, very illuminating. And I think we all got something out of it. So in one of the exercises, we had to think about something that we had lost, that we regretted. And so I thought about when I was a child, and I had been told, I was really little, I had been told that I was going to have my great-grandmother's diamond ring. I was so little that it was the pink plastic box that it was in that I really liked. I mean, that's how old I was. Right? It's like, it snapped, it was pretty. The ring, I don't know. But then later on, the ring was gone. It had just kind of disappeared, and I never really got the story. You know, I was just told, yeah, well, that's gone. And so the exercise was kind of digging back into my roots, right? The roots of my psyche, and bringing it up, looking at it, sharing it. And through the process, I had a revelation. And the revelation was that this whole thing, it seemed so mysterious at the time. I really never processed it at the time. I thought of it as a loss. But that if I had been not 4 years old, but if I had been, you know, maybe 40 years old or something, or today, if the same thing had happened, I would have had an entirely different understanding, because I would have recognized that during this time, my grandparents were busy losing their house, losing their business, and it's no wonder the ring disappeared. You know, and I could understand that as an adult so easily. It was like not a big deal. But as a child, it was just like, oh, you have things and then they're gone. It's a mystery. So for me, it was a revelation, because I realized, oh, you know, that applies to a lot of things that happened in the past. When you understood them as a child, they had a different impact than you might have had, or than the incident might have had if it had happened as an adult, just because as adults we have so much more knowledge and so much more wisdom about how the way works, and people, you know, explain things more too, right? So it's different. So for me, that was an aha moment, a revelation. And so thanks to the workshop, I feel that I have become more consciously aware of this difference. How something in the past may not, you know, can kind of be revisited or let alone, and just kind of move on from it, understanding that some of the things that may have transpired in our past, the effect they had was so mysterious, but we don't need to let it affect us. So you know, you hear the saying, the past is not precedent. That's what Thomas Troward said. We don't have to have our future ruled by the past. And of course, you know, that was one of the teachings of Jesus. He was a great pattern breaker. He broke all kinds of traditions and ways of doing things. He's saying that, you know, as you believe now, it will be done. You know, go change your life, or sin no more, or whatever. Stop making those mistakes. You don't have to go revisit them all, bit by bit. You know, because really, our conscious thought is so much more powerful than our unconscious thought. So that's why we don't have to go back and revisit everything. Although, of course, there are things in our past that we ought to think through a little bit. They may have been a lot more, well, let's call them bigger things than a small loss. They might have been, and either good or bad. You know, the fact is that every little thought that we have doesn't result in an exact tit-for-tat outcome. Instead, you can think about your life as being like a great big tapestry full of lots of incidents or lots of threads that make up the whole. It's not like your life is just one single piece of yarn being spread out where what just happened affects the next thing. It's more like a coloration, a tendency. The more red thoughts, the more red our tapestry is, so to speak. Although I don't know how you could call a thought red, maybe you can. So it's not just one experience or one thought that is going to change our whole life, because, and it's a good thing, because scientists have figured out that human beings have about 60,000 thoughts a day. So that means in 25 years, and you've got 500 million thoughts that you have had. So, you know, it's just about, yes, these unconscious thoughts do have an effect, but they're just setting up tendencies. They're not ruling our lives. And the fact that a conscious thought is so powerful means that today I can make a decision, a conscious decision that just like wipes out a lot of this unconscious thinking of the past that I wasn't aware of. And I can be definite about, we can all be definite about what it is we do want to have, we do want to be, and we do want to experience. And that conscious thought, and this is what we do with spiritual mind treatment and affirmation, these conscious thoughts can set that into motion according to our level of belief. So that's why we use affirmations in spiritual mind treatment. And I just wanted to give you an example of a personal revelation that I had last week. Because my point is, we all are having lots of revelations. I'm sure, you know, if you were in the workshop, you had your own revelation, or whatever you were doing during the week. You probably had revelations or insights or aha moments that just naturally flowed into your life. We have them. And we should recognize that, because at the very same time, there is also a tendency that we think that divine revelations are only the stuff of special, holy people. It's not so. Ernest Holmes, who wrote The Science of Mind, said, to be self-conscious is to be a spiritual entity. A person is a spirit, while God is the spirit. A person is an individual, while God is universal. But since the individual comes from and is in the universal, then it follows that it's almost as if a person is like a little world inside a giant world. I don't know, that's the way he described it. To me, it's like we're like a tapestry and not a string, however you want to think of it. But he said this is what Jesus meant when he said that mankind or a person has inherent life within themselves. Real life, creative life. So, and we have to remember, once upon a time, even Jesus was a little baby who couldn't speak, who couldn't walk, who couldn't feed himself, and was dependent on other people for everything he needed, just like we were. So was Buddha. So was Socrates. And so are all the New Thought pioneers that we look up to. They were all born as ordinary people, just like us. So if you were raised in a traditional religion, you probably realize how unusual it is for a minister to say that every person has direct access, can receive or enjoy direct revelation. But it's true. The word revelation simply evolved from the idea of removing a veil so that something could be seen clearly. And religious revelation, and this is interesting, from religious revelation, looking in the dictionary says that revelation is something that is revealed on purpose by God to humans. But the dictionary definition is not how we would put it, because it implies that God is something outside, something totally separate from a human being that's out there making decisions about what it is we get to know or don't get to know. Something, some kind of entity that's going to pick out who's going to get this message and who's going to get that message. So instead, I want to share with you what it says about the word revelation in the glossary in the back of the Science of Mind, which is probably one of the best ways to learn about the science of mind, is to just read the glossary. It says, revelation means becoming consciously aware of hidden things, and since the mind that we use is the same mind that God uses, which is the one and only mind, then the avenues of revelation can never be closed. Revelation is the gift of God. It has been there all the time, awaiting our recognition. And he also said, and I think this is very important, Ernest Holmes said, revelation must keep faith with reason. The universe is harmonious. The universe unfolds apparently according to certain orderly, systematic ways. Evolution has been kind of a natural progression, a sensible progression. Not just when you think about plant and animal life evolution, but also when you just think about what we call inanimate forms. If you think about geologic forces that raise up a mountain with volcanoes or other forces, and then gradually over time, even a large mountain is washed down into the valley below or out through the rivers into the water, how the water runs down and then evaporates back up into the clouds. So we have these cycles, these things that are very predictable, reliable patterns. Well, the scientific method is based on the assumption that, there are principles that we can count on. That if you repeat the same scientific experiment over, or if different people try it, you can expect to get the same result. It's not going to change from randomly. It's predictable. And that is the reason why we call our teaching religious science, or the science of mind, because we're attempting to be as rigorous about our spiritual studies as you would expect any successful student to be about anything they were studying, if it's art or music or physics or computer science. We don't just go out and make stuff up willy-nilly and say, oh, that's the truth. So when we teach affirmations and when we teach spiritual mind treatment, it's not that we here in the center just make it up. Oh, try this. It's based on work that's been done by really generations of people in New Thought. And we have learned over time how to break it down into steps that people can do, and if they follow those steps, they will get results. It's the scientific approach to prayer, you could say. And I know that there are many places where people can learn to meditate and even use affirmations and positive thinking, and some are wonderful, and some are, a little superficial, maybe not that spiritual, some are more spiritual. But there's also some that have sprung up over the, past centuries and also recently that I would call are kind of misleading or harmful. And that's where our approach of the scientific approach can be helpful. This is where we help each other out by coming together. We share our experiences, we try things together, we say, oh, try this, it works, it doesn't work. So we create in our community a way for us to test and share some of these approaches. So if someone says, follow me, I'm a very special person with a personal pipeline to God, and I will tell you how to live your life, what job to take, who to marry, and while you're at it, give me your money to hold on to. We know. Oh. No, thank you. You're right. But how do we know it? We know it because we know each other, and we have shared, the experience of other people who have done this. And yet, people do fall for the charlatans or false ideas. Let's just call them false ideas, right? Even 25 years ago, it wasn't that long ago, we had the Heaven's Gate cult in Rancho Santa Fe where people actually purposely died thinking that they were going to go catch a ride on an alien spaceship, So now we teach that with God all things are possible, but we do have this caveat. All things are possible according to natural laws and principles. So, and I'm laughing, but I do feel very sad that people got pulled into something like that. And it is an extreme example. But there are a lot of ideas that are just kind of floating around. And I think that, the advent of social media has made us more conscious or aware that there are a lot of misleading ideas that kind of float around and get propagated. And I believe most of them are rooted actually in fear, a feeling of being out of control. But it ends up that people say dreadful things about other people sometimes. So we call that activity othering. It sounds like mothering, but it's pretty much the opposite. Othering is when we don't see other people as being similar to ourselves. We see them as being different or separate or even threatening or undeserving. And othering happens when loving is missing. So I know that everyone here is very loving and very nice. I just know that because I know you. And yet I have to say that when you drive by homeless people day after day, it can kind of make you shut down a little bit. It seems so overwhelming. When you look on the news and you see this war and that catastrophe and this bad thing happening, it does feel overwhelming, and just the overwhelmingness of it can generate this sense of fear. And this is February. It's supposed to be celebrate Black History, and instead we started the month with yet another traffic stop shooting or death. But it's just sad, it's overwhelming, and it makes it hard to keep hold of our faith when there are these things happening that do seem overwhelming, but we need to. We need to keep hold of our faith. We need to keep remembering also that our individual thoughts, beliefs, and feelings really do matter in the wide span of life. Our thoughts begin with us, but they also radiate out from us. So to start with, I was talking about personal revelations, personal aha moments, how we each can tap into this personal inner knowledge that we have access to. But I'd like to just expand on that and talk about cultural revelations. So culture is huge. It encompasses some of these false ideas, but it also encompasses some really wonderful, wonderful ideas. Ideas like democracy, freedom, things that have stood us so well and have also provided wonderful things into our culture, into our group psyche. And so I just wanted to have you think for a moment about the roots of this community right here. You know, Center for Spiritual Living Carlsbad began over 30 years ago as the Carlsbad Church of Religious Science. But that's not our entire history. Our history goes back even farther if we go back and look at our roots. And one thing that is so important in our roots that has such an impact on all of us who come here and everyone really that we interact with is this idea of the inner light that we each have. And of course, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. So in theory at least, we share that with Christianity. But beyond that is also the idea of direct revelation. And I think it's really interesting because, you know, I look at the story about Jesus and I'm like, oh, well, obviously he thought everyone could do these. He said right there, at least the Bible says, he said we could all do what he did, you know, that it was according to our belief. And yet, one of the only other Christ-inspired denominations that I know of that shares our belief that each person actually has this ability to experience the direct revelation of the light within is the Quakers, or Religious Society of Friends. And their founder was a young shoemaker named George Fox who had a revelation 400 years ago that what we call now Christ consciousness is an ever-present reality. So that sounds like, oh yeah, we teach that, right? But that was a revelation that he had, and believing that God is in every person, then, as an outpicturing of that belief, then the Quakers were among the earliest groups to actually speak out against slavery and advocate on behalf of Native Americans, prisoners, and people who were locked away in asylums, mental asylums. They also gave equal rights within their families and within their religious groups to women and even children. Most of them were pacifists, and of course, they were annoying to other people because they wouldn't take off their hats. They just had these stubborn beliefs about equality, and they had this impulse to speak truth to power. If you've ever heard that phrase, it's kind of where it comes from, I think. So at least in the early days of their history, I think this is important to us, they also had many reports of physical healings from just naturally through their beliefs. However, I think it's interesting, most of those reports about physical healings were lost, and they were lost because 400 years ago, people were being, prosecuted for witchcraft. So anything like that was something that you would don't tell anyone. So we are so lucky to live today where people are really interested in all forms of healing. A lot of Quakers immigrated to America back in the 1600s and 1700s, and they had also a big influence on American history in the days from the colonial times all the way through the Civil War. They were instrumental in the Underground Railroad and in other ways. And since then they've had a quieter influence, which I think is partly because some other groups have sprung up that shared some of their ideas. So the reason why I'm talking about them is because I'm talking about a scientific approach. So if you want to test out whether your ideas are correct, then look to see if they've been replicated in another way. So I think that we can look to them and their experience in a way as confirmation that some of the things that we teach have been proved. I'm just thinking, let's just pretend that the Quakers were early spiritual experimenters. You can think of them that way, who discovered in their laboratory that ideas about oneness will lead to beliefs and experiences of peace and abundance and good for everyone. So, interestingly, it was 200 years after George Fox had his revelations, which started the Quaker movement, and he was a shoemaker, right? That it was an American clockmaker, Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, who experienced a physical healing and a personal revelation about what he called the truth. And then he spent years refining a method of mental healing, which has been passed down to us today. He's often called the father of New Thought. Although he was focused on spiritual healing techniques, it was, he said, done through knowing the truth about people's essential perfection, through knowing that they were one with Christ consciousness. And he did replicate these healing effects that also were experienced by the early Quakers. And from him, a lot more people became interested in these ideas. And the New Thought movement grew and evolved. So then, 100 years later, our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote The Science of Mind. And these ideas about the oneness of life, the ideas that each of us has an inner light, a direct personal connection to spirit, continued to grow out. And what was the result? The result was, once again, that a belief in the oneness, the universality of life will necessarily result in a manifestation of healings, of prosperity, of loving kindness, a feeling not of otherness, but a feeling of kindness towards other people and acceptance of other people, a belief in equality, and a welcoming attitude of friendship towards the stranger. So I just wanted to explore that in a, kind of looking at what we believe from more of a laboratory standpoint. How do we know that what we believe is true? How do we know that our own personal revelations are true? These revelations are rooted in our history, and they're also always available to us today. So when you feel that you're having an aha moment, when you feel that you're suddenly seeing something so much more clearly than you might have in the past, accept that it's a real possibility that it's true. You know, if you want to talk about it and check it out, it can be done. We're here together, and we have a community where we can share and discuss these things. The revelations and wisdom have changed our world over time, and they're changing our world today. So we shouldn't feel overwhelmed. We should go ahead and just take joy in being a part of this very beautiful movement that we are a part of as we move through this complicated but amazing thing we call life in life-affirming ways. So that's my talk, the roots of revelations. Revelations belong to us. And so now let's get some tips.
Been happy lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be something good has begun. And I've been smiling lately, thinking about the world as one, and I believe it could be someday it's gonna come. On the edge of darkness, there rides a peace train. And peace train, take this country, come take us all home again. I've been smiling lately, thinking about the good things to come, and I believe it could be, it's gonna come. Peace train sounding louder, glide on the peace train. Come on now, the peace train, holy road. Everyone jump up on the peace train. Ooh, come on now. So get your bags together, go bring your good friends too, 'cause it's getting nearer. Soon it will be with you. Come and join the living. Yeah, it's not so far from you, and it's getting nearer. Yeah, soon it will all be true. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, peace train. I've been crying lately, thinking about the world as it is. Why must we go on hating? Why can't we live in bliss?
jump on it. Let's jump into peace. Oh, let's also be thinking right now about prosperity. Lots of things that we want. Let's see if maybe I move back a little. I won't. Yeah, no feedback back here. Less feedback. So it's our time for conscious giving. So I invite you to just bring into mind your contribution, all the contributions you make to the functioning and expansion and growth of this center. Your gifts through volunteering, your gifts through participating, your gifts through the friendships that we make together, and your gifts of financial support so that we can afford to be in this nice space here together today. Just think about that, and I want to express thanksgiving, an acknowledgement, as we know together that this is something we are building together, something that we build for ourselves together, a true community of good, a true community of peace. So I give thanks for it. I know this is the way it is, and so it is.
I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. We are so blessed, we are so blessed, we are so grateful for all that we have. We are so blessed, we are so blessed, we are so grateful, we are so blessed.
Okay, I just want to remind you we have birthday cake for Norm, for Elaine, and for Margie. So stay and wish them a happy birthday. And then, so we'll have cake, and then afterwards, we'll set up those tables in the back. We'll have a workshop. Don't worry if you didn't go to last week's workshop. You're welcome to come to this week's workshop.
What's the topic of the workshop?
Gratitude and blessings.
I like it.
Gratitude and blessings. And let's see. Oh, I had one announcement. We're trying to figure out if our next class should be held on Sunday after the service or online on Zoom. I know Morgan is, I know her vote, but if anyone else is thinking about that, if you could let me know your preference, I'd greatly appreciate it. So now I'm going to give a closing treatment, spiritual mind treatment, and then we'll stand and sing the song on the back of your programs. So I just ask you to join me in knowing the truth that this is a spiritual universe, that each of us is a spiritual being having a human experience, that we are empowered to choose to move through life in the highest and best way that allows us to follow our own individual dreams in the pursuit of life, of love, of joy. There is good for us. It is our birthright. We have access to it. And as we pursue it in ways that follow the path of loving kindness and harmony, we bring our own individual light into a position of brightness. We allow it to shine. And each of us, as we shine our own lights, we light up the world. This is the truth. It's the way it works. I give thanks that it is so. And I turn this treatment over to Spirit, thankfully, gratefully, knowing it is done, and I invite you to join with me and say, and so it is. Thank you.
Open your heart, let your love go free, out over the ocean, right across the sea. Let it flow like a river.